We say what they can't radio.
Black, stop playing with it.
Welcome to the No Mistakes podcast. In life, there are no mistakes, just life lessons. And between us, we got a bunch of them.
A whole lot.
I'm your host, Let JBJ.
I'm Shakir B.
Today, we're going to get into it. Shakir, what's up, bro?
What's up, bro? What's going on with you? How was your weekend?
The weekend was good. How was yours?
It was all right, low key.
Low key?
Low key.
Chill?
Yeah, can't complain, man.
Good stuff. And man, I this weekend, I took my daughter to the gun range. And it was pretty interesting.
Okay.
Because she's 9. She's 9 years old.
Okay.
Some of y'all might know Gabby. Some of y'all don't. But Gabby's 9. And
Okay.
she's, almost like a carbon copy of myself. She's very adventurous. And I took her to the gun range.
Okay.
Which is something I've been wanting to do for a while. I own several firearms legally. All right.
Got to put that out there.
Yeah, legally. And Second Amendment is cool with me as long as we all get to, partake.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So I took Gabby, and there was a lot of looks like, oh my God, there's a 9-year-old girl in the gun range,
Okay.
And I thought she was gonna be scared, but man, Gabby was licking them shots off, man. she was letting them off.
That's
She
what's
took
up.
direction very well. Before we left the house, I said, hey, you gotta listen to everything I say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want, do not misbehave. And she took that direction very well. And she seemed pretty excited. Excited to be in there.
I like it. Let me tell you why.
Mhm.
Once my daughter becomes old enough, like
Mhm.
the day she becomes old enough,
Mhm.
I'm going to take her to the gun range to get her acclimated to firearms. And the
Okay.
reason why I want to do it is because, one, I want to take the excitement of guns away from her.
Like,
Right? In the event she's somewhere where some kid, maybe she's on a play date or something.
Mhm.
You never know. These things happen all the time,
Right.
right? I want to take the excitement of guns away from her.
Right.
And then I also want her to understand the seriousness of firearms.
Mhm.
And then obviously, how to use one as she gets older,
Right.
Ain't nothing wrong with a young lady know how to use a firearm.
Absolutely not. That was kind of like my big thing because, in contrast, my oldest daughter who's about to be 14 the next month, she did not want to go, and I begged her,
Oh,
right?
man.
But for her, there's a fear factor there,
Okay.
and that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to take the both of them
Got you.
to take that fear factor like away. So
Okay.
if they ever in a situation where they're around a gun or somebody who has a gun, they're not panicking. You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, she was in there, man. She was busting off shots. She took
That's
direction
good.
very well. She,
good.
She was super excited, and she was showing off a little bit. She got better aim than her.
What was she shooting?
We did a 9mm
Okay.
Glock, and then we did a 22.
Oh, you started off with a 9mm.
Yeah, we started off with the 9.
I was thinking about
Kickback
starting
was
mine
a
off
little-
with like a little 22.
Well, that's what we did next. So the kickback was a little bit too much
Okay.
for her on that Glock. So we transitioned to the 22, and
Got you.
she handled that pretty well.
That's what's up.
So
All right. So listen, speaking of guns,
right.
We've had the incident recently of the mother and son
Mhm.
situation in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
The young lady was in a food spot. A gentleman approached her, talking crazy, started putting his hands on her. She called up her son. He came down,
Yep. Let off.
and the guy lost his life.
Yep.
Right?
Yep,
They
yep.
dropped the charges. Which,
Right.
listen, I'm not mad at that.
Right.
If I'm being honest,
They arrested him first.
They arrested him, charged him. Right. But
and then
I think
after people were making
Yeah.
such a big deal out of it,
listen,
they dropped the charges.
I think justice was served. What's your
I'm gonna agree. I'm looking at it two ways. I'm looking at it where homeboy should have never been putting his hands on a
Definitely.
female.
I agree.
number
I agree.
one. Especially he was throwing
He was going
haymakers.
in.
Yeah, he was
He was going in.
mollywobbing, right? But I'm thinking, the son came in, maybe let off a round in the air or hit him in the leg or do something like that. That would have been cool too. But when you're in that situation,
Exactly.
you think quick. So
your emotion, your adrenaline is
somebody
going.
putting a hand on your mother.
Exactly.
So I think
Exactly.
they definitely they did what they had to do. You know, RP to whoever that was that that died. But you know, you can't go around doing stuff
it
like
looked
that
good to me.
people.
I mean,
yeah.
but here's a bigger question,
Mhm.
right? From a societal standpoint.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when I watch that video, right, I see a man who does not appear to be armed,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
He is punching a woman,
Mhm.
right? In that video, I also see other men
Standing by.
running in the opposite direction. Somebody was recording it. I'm not sure if it was a man or a woman.
Right.
Someone was recording it, right? So the question is, are black men required, or should black men protect black women in public who they don't know?
I'm telling you, I gotta look at it because now that I'm a dad,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? I gotta look at it in a standpoint of being a father. I would want a brother to help my daughter out if
I
she's
agree.
being assaulted.
I
I
agree.
would want that. But I also understand that it's a lot of crazy people out in the world too. It's so many brothers that have stepped in,
Mm-hmm.
got shot and killed and died trying
Yeah.
to. I think I seen one clip on the internet where the boyfriend and girlfriend were getting into it. Stranger stepped in,
All right.
stopped it.
All right.
He gets shot and killed, and then she grabs her boyfriend, put him in the car, and takes off with him. Like they left together, and the guy that was trying to
Wow.
protect her, you know, lost his life. So I can see why people could be hesitant to step in and not get involved, but I also think it's got to be like also like a group setting. You know what I mean? Like if me and you and like maybe one other person were there, I think, all right, come on, we gotta do this together. Let's go over there and try to stop this. But I think people are more hesitant when it's just him by himself, like one bystander by himself getting involved in something like that.
I feel you
know
on
what
that.
I mean?
So I'm gonna say this. I think that it's a very I do not think it's black and white. Right. One, you have to look at your surroundings. From my understanding, this situation happened not in the best neighborhood in Chicago, I think it was, right? So you got to assess where you at, because more than likely they're going to be some people who that's probably carrying.
Right.
They don't care to put a bullet in your face or someone else's.
Right.
So one, you have to assess where you are. Me personally, I'm going to say that depending on the environment, depending on the situation, it could go either way, if I'm being honest. Right. Instinctually though, I have to say that I don't think I could stand there and allow that to happen though. Instinctually, like sitting here, just talking about it, I could be like, I don't know. But if it's right in front of me, I don't know if my morals would just allow it to.
Yeah, I agree.
To just happen.
I agree.
Right? Because listen, in some situations, I'm gonna let that rock, bro. Like, listen, if I see a pimp smacking his hoe, I'm be like, hey, that's a part of the game. I got somewhere to be. I'm out of here, right? Like, it is what it is. I'm gonna let that ride. But
a mom getting
yeah. Like, I don't know if I can instinctually just let that ride.
I get it.
Right?
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of this. There's a lot of things that play into the factor of what makes someone want to step in or what not. You know what I mean? Like they got their own family traumas. Maybe this is something that they're desensitized to. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
They seen this all the time growing up.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like it's embedded in their nature that
whether they saw it in their household or just in their neighborhood.
In the neighborhood. Community,
that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So a lot of people, you know, they're desensitized. They see it and they're like, oh, what's the big deal?
Another day in the hood, right?
Another day in the neighborhood. Somebody getting beat up. Oh well, we see it all the time.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So that definitely plays a factor in it. But I agree with you. I think justice was served. I'm mad they arrested him first because I agree. I think if it was another community,
they'd have been like,
they would have been like, stand your ground. Exactly. Would have been a stand your ground type of deal. But
I think that the right call was definitely made to drop the charges. I'm glad they dropped the charges because if you think about it, right, what was supposed to happen? This man punched her in her face repeatedly.
Right.
By the time the cops got there, the guy wouldn't have been there. So the cops would have been like, "It's nothing for us to do."
Yep.
She just got punched in the face multiple times, from my understanding, for no reason.
Right.
So it's like, damn, I gotta just eat this?
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
Like
that's usually how, and another thing too, like they were just getting food and they were strapped up. You know what I mean? Like
Just
they were
getting
strapped
food.
up. So now you think about this is probably like
Just-
everyday kind of life that they're experiencing. They
Right.
strapped up, just went to go get some food to eat.
That's
you know?
crazy.
So it's a lot that plays into that. It's a lot. There's another thing I was reading up earlier this week. It's called epigenetics, right?
Okay.
And epigenetics is basically the study of the effects of your genes based on the environment and past traumas that you've been in
Okay.
that affect how you behave, affect how you look, affect your eye color, affect
Interesting.
your
Interesting.
stress. You know what I mean? And epigenetics, they talk about how when you're born, you're literally programming like 15 to 20 generations of trauma, coding,
Wow.
what your ancestors been through, the type of stuff your ancestors went through back in slavery days, all the way down to your parents, and what their social settings were like,
Wow.
and what their past trauma was like, and it gets literally coded into your not your DNA, it's called the RNA. So you have your DNA, you got your RNA. So it gets coded into your RNA, which copies pretty much everything in your DNA. So you could be like the guy in the shot that punched the lady. We don't know what his epigenetics was
Right,
like that
right.
caused him to do that.
Or think that was
or think that was
acceptable.
okay
Yeah,
and
yeah.
acceptable. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's a lot of factors that go into that.
So what would you say yours is when
Me?
you think about it?
I mean, inherently, us as Black people, we got a lot of trauma in our DNA, right? And our epigenetics is a lot of trauma. So I'm definitely gonna say there's trauma in my epigenetics, but they also talk about how you can change your genes, right?
You can change it.
You can change your genes by like you do affirmations.
Okay.
Whatever genetic coding you have, whatever trauma you have passed down from generations to generations, you can literally, and there's studies on this, that you can literally change it by when you wake up in the morning, you speaking affirmations to yourself,
Right.
the stuff that you eat,
Right.
Not eating certain foods, you know what I mean? The stuff that you listen to, and all of those things after 3 weeks of you doing them consistently, it literally changes the way your genes are programmed.
I agree.
And then your next kid that you have, those
There you
genes
go.
get passed down instead
Exactly.
of the trauma.
That's why a lot of times when people say, make statements like, I'm a product of my environment, right? It's like, if you're a product of a fucked up environment, why do you have to stay that way?
Right.
Right. So basically, based on what you're saying, people choose to stay this way because you have the ability, if you really want to
Right.
change it. It doesn't take a whole lot to do it. It
Right.
just takes a little bit of discipline, a little bit of focus, right? Desire to want to do it,
Right.
and then you change it.
And then there's on the flip side, there's some people that don't have the knowledge or the means, right? So it's one thing not having the means to change it, right? There's one thing. You don't have the means to change your environment.
Means meaning what? Financially?
Finances,
All right.
So you may not have the means. However, even that you could change by gaining the knowledge, right? Gaining the knowledge to change that situation. So yeah, you're right. You don't, you are a product of your environment, but you don't have to stay
You don't
a
have
product
to
of your environment, right?
Listen, I'm not really big on excuses,
Right.
So when someone says, I don't have the means to do it, if you got a mobile phone,
you got the
with Wi-Fi,
especially with
you
this
got the means to do
technology.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because YouTube,
Absolutely.
you can learn anything on YouTube University, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you may not have the means to change it overnight, but you can learn how to change your mentality,
Right.
which will lead you to an understanding to how to change the situation to gain the means
Right.
to change your situation.
Absolutely.
So I don't really buy into people make excuses.
You're right, man. There's a level of procrastination that's built into
Listen,
excuses.
man.
You know what I mean? So even myself, I'm guilty of it. Sometimes I get in my mopes and shit. I'm be like, oh man, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I don't know how I'm doing. And there's other times like, man, I'm gonna figure this shit out. We gonna get to the bag. We gonna get to whatever it is I'm trying to get
True.
to. So it's all about how you kind of like program yourself, your mentality, how you like wake up in the morning, how you go to sleep at night. All of that kind of like affects the next step, man.
I agree. So let me switch gears for a little bit.
Yeah.
I was looking at a story about D Wade and Gabrielle Union. And she made a statement like they do 50-50 in the house. Man.
That was a topic for a minute.
It was
too,
a topic
man.
for a minute.
Yeah.
In your opinion, is that where the expectations of dating is today? 50-50 in a relationship or marriage?
I think society has put this this spin where it's like, I'm a woman, I can do anything you could do type of thing.
Okay,
right?
that's fair.
I'm a woman, I don't need you to take care of me, I can take care of myself. Society has kind of like unfairly at times placed that kind of like standard. You know what I mean? Because there's times that women want to be taken care of, and there's times that women be like, no, I don't need you. I can do this. I can do that myself.
Wait. I got to hold on, a little bit pushback.
Yeah.
When you say unfairly, society has placed a standard
meaning not unfairly, the switch up on when to apply, I can take care of myself versus I want you to do this and do that. You get what I'm trying to say?
I don't think that's society though. I think the women have made a choice, right? To man,
just so you can spit it out, bro.
I don't want to be an asshole, even though historically I'm an asshole. But nah, I think some women. Let me start there. Some women have shouted from the rooftop, from the mountaintop. I'm strong, independent. I don't need no man.
Right.
Okay. Cool. I don't fault you for that. But when it comes to getting into a relationship with a man or splitting bills with a man, now we are desiring men to take care of us or take care of them when before they didn't need a man. Yep. Right. So it's like, which one is it? Now, I'm going to say this. For some, I'm not going to say for some reason. I completely understand why a lot of women did not vibe with Kevin Samuels. Right. I'm going to say now, Kevin Samuels was the first person to put into perspective why a man should pay all the bills. And after I gained that perspective from him, I was like, makes sense.
Okay.
I'm all for it now.
Okay.
Because before I was 50-50. Right. Now I'm more so like, I don't mind paying all the bills.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, I've always been, I'm going to take care of it. I've always been that guy. I'm going to take care of it. I got it. But then, you might come across, well, I got it today. All right, cool. You got it today. No problem. I ain't going to argue with you on that. You got it today. No problem. And that's not to speak to your womanhood or that's not to speak to how less of a man I am. But if your choice or desire is to take care of this bill, all right, do that. I don't want you to. I can do it. But if that's what you want to do, knock yourself out. But we can't lessen anybody's manhood because they allowed you to go ahead and take care of that bill.
I agree with that 100%.
And like you said, Kevin Samuels made a lot of points. And ladies, it's not a woman hater show.
It's not.
All right?
It's not.
Some of y'all just don't like Kevin Samuels, RIP. But he made a lot of good points with his show. You know what I mean?
We're actually going to do a whole episode about Kevin Samuels and the points that he made and attempt to deliver them in a different manner.
So you think the blowback that he was getting was more of his delivery and less of the
100%. 100%. Because listen, the way I say Kevin Samuels was the first person to put why a man should pay 100% of the bills into perspective, and I agreed with it. I think if women took a second to listen to that episode that he did, first of all, he did a lot of good episodes I think women should listen to. But when you sit down and you listen to it, right, one of the things he said was a man cannot expect a woman to be feminine and submissive if she has to wake up early in the morning just like you, go out and fight the world just like you, right? Navigate corporate America just like you, answer to a boss just like you, right? And then you want her to come home and be submissive to you and cook the dinner and all this other stuff, right? So when I think about that, I think at the time my daughter was very young when I heard that episode, and I thought to myself, I just went through my own day with my daughter, right? So I'm up at 5 o'clock. I get myself ready. I got to wake her up at 6 a.m. to get her ready, right? I got to get her to daycare by 7:00. I got to get back on the road to be at work by 8:00. I got to leave work in a hurry to pick her up because now she's been in daycare all day, right? God forbid if I got to run an errand or something like that. By the time I get home, cook dinner, and sit down with her, which is all I want to do all day anyway, I might get like 30 minutes of that. And then I got to put her to bed and do it all over again tomorrow.
Right.
Right. If you are married, you're paying all the bills, right? All you got to do is come home, be a husband and a dad, because your wife is taking care of all of that. Right. And I think that the misconception sometimes with some women is that being a stay-at-home is you just got your feet up, you just chilling. Like that's the hardest job any woman could ever have.
Yes, definitely,
right?
For sure.
So when I look at it from that perspective, I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. I don't mind paying all the bills.
Right.
But that's a perspective that he provided that I think went over a lot of women's heads.
It went over a lot of women's heads, but it was more, like you said, it was more his delivery. It
was. I can definitely understand that. It was definitely his delivery.
Like I said, me, man, I always look at it like, there's certain things that's built into a man, I believe, right? Opening doors, paying for bills, complimenting, doing little gifts, stuff like that. That should be built into how a man operates and treats his lady, right?
Gotcha.
And if we out, I'm always swiping that. I'm swiping the card. I'm gonna take care of it. I'm gonna take care of it, right? But if you decide, hey, you know what, babe, I got it this time. I'm not gonna be like, oh no,
I ain't stopping nobody from paying.
I ain't stopping that from happening.
Go ahead, pay for it.
It is what it is. Yeah, man.
So do you think that the 50-50 concept is more acceptable or not acceptable in 2023?
I think in 2023, it is. I don't think it's acceptable.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna tell you why. Because people look at that as a negative now. Men and women look at it as a negative.
Okay.
Right. There's a negative connotation to going 50-50. It's also a generational thing, right?
Okay.
You think about D Wade and Gabrielle. They got years and years apart, right? She's an older woman. He's a younger man. His generation, that's what they was doing. They ain't paying for females to do anything. Right. You know what I mean?
I agree.
The generation she came from, it was more acceptable for a man to do that.
Okay.
Right. So I think society right now has kind of made it like a thing where it's like, it's a faux pas type of thing, right? But it all depends on who you rocking with. Like me, I'm the type of dude. That's just what I do. You know what I mean? That's what I do. But I also think like, the way the world works now and makes it like an ugly thing to go 50-50 with somebody, the person that you're dating. Which I can understand though.
But you also have to navigate your relationship based on where you are. Right? You can't be like a $50,000-$60,000 earner thinking you're gonna pay all the bills. You need that man or that woman to come in and y'all put y'all 50-60 together.
Yep.
And get to work. Right? Like,
yeah.
But I think that there are, again, some women who may be in that 50-60-70 bracket looking for 200-300 plus, right? Instead of, is it taboo for a woman to look for a man on her level?
I don't think it's taboo. I think some women prefer that. I think
look for a man on their level.
Yeah, I think most women.
I disagree.
You think? I have a friend. Right now. I ain't even gonna put her name out there like that, but she make good bank. You know what I mean? She make good bank. She works in IT.
Okay.
She works for a financial company in IT. She makes at least 200, before bonuses.
Okay.
She straight up told me, it's like, Jimmy, nah, I ain't. If he's not making what I'm making or more, I'm not even looking at him. And I'm like, wow, man.
But can you? All right, so that's separate, right? I'm more so talking about the women who are making 50-60.
Okay.
Looking down on dudes that make 50-60. Right? Women are naturally looking for a guy that's doing better than them.
Of course.
When the guy that is on your level, you guys can come together and still build something. Now, a woman making 150, 200, whatever, I can understand wanting a man on her level as well. And I don't think women are wrong for wanting that The overarching question is, can you get it?
Right.
Can you get it? If you can get it, more power to you.
Right.
If you can't get it,
Mm-hmm.
what's the option? Stay single?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, go for it. If that's what you want to do.
Right.
Right. If you can't get it, what's the options? Just be a serial dater. If that's what you want to do, go for it. I make no qualms about it.
Until you find that one.
How long that's gonna take,
right.
though?
Takes. You can kiss a lot of
Listen,
frogs.
a lot of frogs on both sides.
Right.
On both sides.
100%.
Men kissing frogs, women kissing frogs.
Yep.
You dating. But at the end of the day, it's like, I think sometimes both men and women, it's not just one sided. I think sometimes we look at our maybe educational, career, or financial accomplishments, and we equate that to what we should want in a partner,
right,
or what we deserve in a partner,
right,
without being like, you know what, this is what I've done, but instead of looking at the worldly accomplishments, right, or social status, we need to focus more so on characteristic traits. Is this person a good person?
Right.
And I think that has absolutely fallen to the wayside.
I would agree with you on that.
In today's dating game.
I would agree, because the way inflation in the world is right now, everybody's on their P's and Q's, trying to make sure they're making the right decisions, right money choices, right choices with their time, right? And if you are a woman who is making X amount of dollars, you understand that, life right now is expensive. It's expensive just to live, right? So you don't want to waste your time. It's not me thinking, but you don't want to waste your time making the wrong choices, right? Making the wrong decisions, right?
I agree.
And I think a lot of that plays into women and choosing men. They look at them for what they can provide, whether it's financially or status-wise or connections-wise. They look at what they can provide versus what we can potentially build. Okay. And that's not with everybody, ladies. It's just some of the experiences that I've come across and people that I've talked to. A lot of women, a lot of times they pick a man based on what he can provide, not necessarily what they can potentially build together. You know what I'm saying? It's very rare that you come across a female that's like, well, you know what? He doesn't have this yet or that yet, but we can do it together. You know what I mean? But those are the ones you need as a man. Yes. Those are the ones you need on your team.
I agree. 100%.
You need the ones that's going to be able to build with you to get there and not necessarily jump on board when you're already there, already have it.
So does that mean that relationships are now more transactional than anything else?
100%.
More transactional.
I believe so. I had a female tell me straight up that, her being in a relationship is a transactional thing. You know what I mean? Because she's trying to get here. She's trying to get here. And she's going to go here to get there, here to get there, here to get there, here to get there, because she's trying to get to a certain point, which is fine to kind of like want to build yourself up, right? But it's in how you're building yourself up.
I don't think there's anything wrong with building yourself up if you're not using other people to do it.
Yep. And 9 times out of 10, this kind of what happens. It's kind of what happens, man. But no, it's just one of those things, man. Relationships now, dating now is just,
very transactional.
It's super transactional, bro. Super transactional.
All right. So what would be your take on, I kind of know mine generally, right? What would be your take on the value of even pursuing a serious relationship today? Because we know dating is all over the place, right? It's the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games, right? What's the value on dating when we've already seen the value of marriage be diminished, right? It's like, what are you really aiming for?
I mean, that's a good question, but I do think it's really specific to who you are as a person. I believe. Because there's an intrinsic value on being in a relationship. Some people just really like being in a relationship. Doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to go to marriage. They just really like being with one person, spending that time with them, You know what I mean? Doing a couple stuff and, going to the movies, hanging out, going to the events together, stuff like that. Some people really like that and not necessarily need to be in a marriage situation, right? So the value on being in a relationship for some people is very, very high, right? Getting married is a different story because most women, correct me if I'm wrong, lady, in the comments, but most women, they date to kind of like get to that ring. You feel me? So if you have a guy,
No,
you don't think so?
I don't
You don't
know.
agree?
I hear a lot of women today saying, I don't need to be married. Right. And ladies, again, let us know in the comment section if we're right, wrong, where you guys stand, whatever. I hear a lot of women today say, I don't need to be married.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then the pushback from the men is like, why don't you want to be married? Like every woman has to want to be married. Listen, there are some women out here today who are cool with just being single, whether it be traveling, dating, having their buddy. Talked about the buddy, right? It's like I would be curious to know in 2023 the percentage of women that actually want to still be married. Because I think being eternally single is a thing now. Right? I think the assumption is because she's a woman, she wants to get married.
Right. But is it marriage versus single life, or is it marriage versus dating? Because you could be in a relationship, you're dating this person that you're in a relationship with, not necessarily single and not necessarily married. Because your question is, what do you think the value is? What do you think the value is in being in a relationship? I think the value in it being a relationship nowadays, everybody wants somebody. Some people want more than one person. Yeah, some people want more than one person.
And that's where all these terms come from, right? I was watching a clip today on IG. The brother was talking about being ethically non-monogamous. I was like,
responsibly or being a player.
Basically saying, much. I'm out here dating and we could be together, but listen, you ain't gonna be the only one.
Right.
Which is different from, the whole poly conversation. We're gonna have a whole episode about poly. We're gonna have some people on talking about their poly situation. But that's where all these terms come from, because being single is so socially acceptable that people are now finding their own little pocket of comfortability of what that looks like.
Right.
Whether it's, dating and I'm just being honest about it, whether it's poly, whether it's whatever you deem it to be for yourself.
Right.
I just don't think that marriage is the overarching goal at a higher percentage.
Right.
In 2023.
I think that percentage is definitely diminished based on the dating pool, man. Because we've had several women on the show already.
Pool.
Right?
Listen,
we've had several women on the show already, and they've all complained about
the dating pool.
The dating pool. So I agree with you that the value on marriage has definitely dropped. But I also believe it's because
we got to look at cause and effect.
Cause and effect. It's also because of what's out there right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there is a
listen,
supply and demand issue.
Again, right? I think it goes both ways. I got a homeboy who was single, and he called me a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "Bro, I was talking to this girl on Hinge. We conversing, da da da." Just single, just normal conversation.
Right.
Hey, how you doing? Yada yada. He said at some point, I don't know if it was him or her who initiated the we should hook up and hang out. But basically, he was like, yeah, we should hang out. And she was like, well, when you available? Because my schedule is tight. And he was like, well, when you available? And she sent him a pricing list. Sent him a pricing list of $125 for 30 minutes. $200 for an hour.
This is what it's come to. That's wild.
And that is not something that does not happen often, to my understanding. It's like either you selling it, or I've even heard of women who are not necessarily selling sex, right? But they'll be like, all right, yeah, we can hang out. Cash at me $100.
Yes,
for wild. Booking my time. Right. What?
Just wow. I mean, You can see it
Right.
now. Some of them, you can go with some Instagram pages and they have a link to their Cash App. You know what I mean? Just if you're feeling generous, and it's like, damn, this is what's happening, bro. Got a link to the Cash App just so this guy can just drop a couple. And you know what? I can't even knock some of these females because some of them are making bank. All right,
They're doing it because some men are doing it.
Exactly, and I was just getting to that, and it's because what we're willing to kind of like engage in. You know
it's like this. Years ago, when Netflix and chill started to become a thing, to me, inviting a woman over to the crib, first date out the gate, was just not a thing. Right. But then this whole Netflix and chill term started to come around. Right. So I'm like, all right, let me try it. Whatever. Hey, what's up? You want to come over? She was like, yeah. I was like, what? You're actually going to come over? Never met me?
So now the dating is kind of like, it's out.
So now that became a norm. Netflix and chill coming over on a first date became a norm.
Right.
Now it's, pay me for my time. It's becoming a norm.
Yeah, man.
And who do you blame? Do you blame the men? Do you blame the women? Do you blame the men for doing it? Do you blame the women for expecting it? Or asking for it?
Both, man. I think it's like we talked about before. It's a cause and effect, man.
Cause and effect. I agree.
If it wasn't an opportunity for it to happen, it wouldn't be a thing, right? If the guys weren't willing to pay, the Cash App drop it in the Cash App wouldn't even be a thing.
I agree.
Right. So it's just one of those things where, you know, I feel like every generation is going to have their kind of like their dating norms that blows the last generation's norm out the window. You know
I agree. I want to circle back to something real quick, just to move away from that. Earlier, we were talking about taking your daughter to the gun range. Right. We were talking about guns a little bit. There's been a lot of mass shootings lately. Right. And you know, we had the shooting recently in Baltimore, the block party. I think there was like 28 people shot,
Crazy.
2 people dead, 28 people got injured or something like that. Right. And when I did a little bit of digging about this story, 15 of the 28 people who got shot were under the age 18. So just teenagers at a block party.
Crazy.
Right. And so I started to think to myself, at what point does this stop becoming about politics, the white man, right? Societal constructs that keep black people down, blah, 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 that conversation. When does this become a one-to-one accountability conversation about black people to black people? Because for 4 decades now, right, I've heard the term, we got to do better, right? I've heard that term for 4 decades now. I think we should put that term to rest. I think it should die. And I think we should just start asking the question, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
Like what are you doing? Why is it okay to take a firearm and shoot it into a crowd of people? Obviously, a crowd that contains children that look just like you. Why is that okay? What the fuck are you doing?
It's not okay, bro. It's not okay. And then there's a lot of factors that play into that. One of them is just, what the hell are your parents, man? Like who's raising these people, right? That's one.
That's definitely one.
And 2, unfortunately, it is the social constructs, bro. You know, because we have now, and I'm not, you know, we have a lot of things that play into how our young people's minds develop.
Right.
Number one thing is the music, right? We listen to the music about shooting up and doing all of this all the time.
Very true.
The time. And eventually that shit just, it sticks, right? And now the only way for them to know how to be tough or handle things is to shoot everything up.
I agree.
Right? So, and then on top of that, yes, there are societal constructs, because when they're doing away with affirmative action. Right?
Yeah.
They're doing away with affirmative action. Now, that was the number one way for most of us are minorities, other than obviously using our brains, right? But that was a way for us to get into these schools. So now
Right.
we're on campus learning about some stuff, making a life for us. Besides being out on the streets and shooting everything up, they just took that away. Social construct, they just took that away.
True.
Right. So it's a lot that play into it, but at the very, 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 very base level, bro, come on, man. You taking a pistol and you shooting at babies and kids, man. Like,
shooting at your own people.
What are we doing? What are we doing? Right?
I just don't, at this point, right? Again, after 4 decades, I don't have the desire to have the soft approach. Right? I don't have the desire to have the we gotta do better conversation. Nah, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
Period.
Right.
So it's like you talked about where their parents. I agree. I think that's where it starts, right? Forget the fact that you had a baby with a woman, you're not with her no more. All right, cool. Forget all that. What about your kid? Raise your kid.
Raise your kid, bro.
Stay in his or her life, right? Because that's where it really starts, right? You got a lot of young men out here who been abandoned by their fathers, turn to the streets for a sense of community, family, right? Someone to embrace them. They turn to the street gangs, and now you out here shooting up your own neighborhoods.
Right.
Not the neighborhood of the white people that are keeping you from opportunity. Right. You shoot up your own neighborhoods.
Yeah, man. It's one of those things where, bro, it's so many different factors that play into it, because I could have been one of those kids shooting up the block party. You know what I mean? Like, definitely didn't have my father growing up at all. Zero. If I didn't have a strong mother in my life, a strong Caribbean mother on top of that, because the rules are different,
with a strong right hook.
With a strong right hook, and she used to make me go get my own switches. All right.
Yeah.
So we have that to play a fact, right? We don't have the fathers involved. I think times have changed now where I see a lot more dads being involved in their kids' lives now, which is, thank God, but there's a lot of different things that just turns it left for some young folk, man. But at the end of the day, yes, you have to just have some sort of self-realization and somebody to just pull your ear a couple times, like, yo, chill out, man. Like, what are you doing? We gotta stop this. But
I think we should definitely, as a people, right, stop looking at, I mean, the political aspect is important, right? But I think first and foremost, man, we have to look at ourselves first. How are we raising our children? Are we holding the people in our circle accountable for not being there for their kids?
Right.
You can't I can't call you my boy, my brother, but then know you got a kid over here that you're not taking care of.
You're not doing that for.
You can't. That's not cool.
This is a fact.
Right. And I think that's where it starts, because again, regardless if you're with the mother or not, you still have a responsibility to raise.
100%.
And I'm not talking about just popping in every other weekend,
right,
picking that little boy, that little girl up on Friday and dropping them off Saturday night. Like, nah, bro, you ain't.
Nah, man. You know what? And it always used to kind of like, I always just think to myself, I look at my kids, my girls, and, some of the stuff that they say and some of the stuff that they get involved in. Like, I listened to my daughters this weekend argue in the backseat of, of my car. And I'm just listening, and I let them go, because now I'm like, damn, she got a point. And the other one, I'm like, well, she got a point too. And it's playing in my head like, man, like, where did they pick this up?
This thought process.
From? And then it goes a little further. I'm like, well, how could somebody have kids and not want to be in their life to kind of like witness even the small stuff, like listening to your kids argue? You know what I mean? Because like for me, I let them rock until I had to stop them. But for me, it was like, man, like this is what I'm saying. This is kind of like what it's about.
Yeah, exactly. You hit it right on the head, man. Yeah, that's what parenting is. That's what it is to, and you could still let them go, right?
Right.
But then afterwards, give them a perspective,
of course,
from from being dad,
100%.
right? And those are the things that help raise them, and those are the moments that you cannot have if you're an every other weekend type of dad.
Yeah, man. It's crazy.
So
it's crazy. And
yeah, man. So
that's kind of like that's where the changes from generation to generation to generation
Yeah.
come into play. When we
Yeah.
talk about how do they do this, how are they letting them, how are the kids acting like this? This is it when we're not around. Every generation teach one. Like you let your kids rock out and do whatever the hell they want to do, and then when they start having kids,
Mhm.
that's exactly what they train up their kids
Right.
to do. They
Right.
absentee fathers, absentee moms. Just let them do whatever, and then the next generation is even worse than the last.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because the
man,
kids who wasn't raised are now raising kids,
absolutely,
and they don't know how to
absolutely.
raise those kids. I got you.
Let me ask you a question, right?
What's up?
So, speaking of the kids, I had a little conversation with one of my my daughter, and I didn't. She ate off the plate,
Mhm.
left it on the table. Left it on the table, right? And to some degree, they're children, right? So
Right.
you got to rear them the right way, but after a while, they should just know better. So I said to her, I said, Gabby, like, what are you doing? Take your dish,
Mhm.
put it in the sink.
Okay.
And she put it in the sink, and I was like, well, I said, you lucky I didn't make you wash it, because you should wash it off and
Mhm.
learn how to
Mhm.
keep your house
Mhm.
clean and learn how to do these certain things. And she said, Dad, just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I need to learn how to wash dishes. So my 9-year-old, so now in the back of my head, I'm just thinking about, where did she get this from?
Mhm.
Number one, and two, why is she thinking this is right? So I had to stop her and say, listen, it's not about being a woman,
Mhm. Right.
all right? It's about being a human being,
Right.
all right? A functioning member of society. You should know how to cook for yourself.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
should know how to clean for yourself. You should know how to do certain things that has nothing to do with you being a lady.
Yeah.
All right. And it just made me think, like, is this what we're doing? You know what I mean? So like, what's your thought process on that?
But wait, when you asked her where she got it from, what did she say?
I already know what she got. She answered me exactly what I thought. What I thought.
Social media or something?
Nah. So she heard it from another adult that women shouldn't have to be cooking and cleaning all the time. We got other things to do as well, right? And I had to say to myself, all right, man, like this isn't. Yes, women have other things to do, but it's not a gender thing to learn how to be able to take care of
Right.
yourself. You know what I mean?
So I think that is, again, where dads come in
Mhm.
to balance what's being taught to our young girls today.
Mhm.
Right. I think it's an over enforcement of empowerment.
Mhm.
Right. You feel empowered not to do dishes? Like, what are we talking
what
about?
are we talking
That's just a basic, a functioning
person?
adulting
Yeah.
thing. Right. That's not relative to a man or a woman.
Mhm.
So I think that for me, man, it's just a matter of sitting down, right, with your daughter. If I was in that situation, I'm gonna sit down with my daughter and I'm gonna have an intensive conversation about where you heard this. You already identified where she heard it from.
Mhm.
And then I think that you have to create the balance to say, listen, yes, you're a woman, and in life you are gonna have more important things to do than washing dishes. But washing dishes is not something that you should be fighting against.
Period.
And I think a lot of women today a lot of people, men and women, are fighting against things that we should not be fighting against.
Period.
Cleaning, cooking.
Right.
Like, I don't
What's wrong
think.
with that?
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that?
What is wrong with that? So that's just, the importance of being a dad and being able to create that balance of learn to pick and choose your battles as you're coming into adulthood, because what's going to happen is that mindset is going to carry on to her dating life when she gets older.
Exactly.
Right. And then
exactly. And
what's that going to look like?
That conversation was had. I told her, I said, Gabby. So we had that conversation. I said, Gabby, this is not the proper way to look at, taking care of your responsibilities. It has nothing to do with the fact that you're a woman. Responsibility is a responsibility. So what happens when you go to college and you're dormant with people and you don't know how to take care of your spot or your room? They're not going to want to hang with you.
And that's a common area type situation.
Yeah, it's common area thing. And then what happens when, you get older and you wanna have children and date? I said, you're going to come across problems. So you can't think like that. So I think she got it now. But the fact still remains, like, there's a group of people out in this world that look at life that way.
You know what I want to do, man? I want us to have an episode and have older women on the episode, 40 plus.
Where I think that'd be dope.
And I want them to kind of explain their upbringing and what caused them to adapt the mindset that they did when they were in their 20s and things like that. Because I don't think we have enough older men and women saying, this is what I did.
Right.
This is where I went wrong. And talking to the younger generations and saying, you may not want to go that route.
Right.
Because now that I'm older, I realize that what I was told wasn't the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I answered the question a while back because I was talking on Clubhouse. Because the question was, have you ever cheated? Right. And I was like, I have. Right. And they was like, well, why? I was like, that's how I was raised.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
That's how I was raised.
Wow.
When I had older men in the community, uncles, whoever, like, you only got one girl.
Pat you on your back.
You ain't a man if you ain't got a bunch of women.
Word.
So growing up, that's what I thought was, oh, all right, I gotta have a bunch of honeys to,
right.
to be a man.
I think that's true amongst most male communities, man.
I agree.
Especially men around our age. We grew up with those type of guys talking about,
yeah,
you only got one.
Yeah.
Pat you on the back when you have 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Or pat you on the back when you bring a few
Exactly.
different ones around.
Exactly.
They got my boy. And that's kind of where we
And
run
then-
into these type of troubles.
So we're gonna have to have a whole conversation because
Yeah.
as I've gotten older, at some point I was like, wait a minute, this ain't working out for me.
Right.
This ain't going well.
Right, man.
So I think it would be good to have a whole conversation.
I think so too. I think
around that.
What will also be dope too is we had, a few older folks and a few younger folks, and we just have some sort of like
Listen,
panel discussion.
Exactly.
And try to see what the differences are.
Yeah.
And how
we're gonna bring that to y'all.
Now we definitely
sure.
gonna do that. That's an idea. Jim just dropped.
Absolutely.
We're gonna do that. Yeah, man.
Yo, man. So what would be the closing remarks for today if you have any?
Closing remarks today, man, is
from your
just,
perspective.
Is from my perspective, is there's a lot of trauma that's embedded and coded into your genes already that you sometimes don't even know why you're feeling the way you're feeling, why you're arguing the way you're arguing. It's already predisposed in you. So, it's important to kind of like remain grounded, speak affirmations to your life, and stay positive and hopefully make that change for the next generation going forward.
Agreed. Agreed.
What about yourself?
Listen, man, I'm gonna say, as a community, first and foremost, I'm gonna talk to my fellas, my black men, my black fathers. We got to stay active in our kids' lives, man. It is the most important thing for young men and women to have that father figure in their lives, no matter what the situation is with, your child's mother, maybe an ex-wife. You gotta silence all that out and focus on staying in your kids' lives, because that is what's most important in raising the next generation.
Right.
So that being said, man, we out of here.
All right, we out. No mistakes.
Peace.
Easy.